The guitar. We all gravitate toward it for similar reasons. It looks awesome, people look cool when they play it, and it just sounds killer in any style of music. I believe much of why we pick up the guitar in the first place has to do with its ability to sing like the human voice. No other instrument really does the same thing. You may have realized even before you started playing the guitar that bending the strings is what is responsible for this human like quality. When you sing guitar parts, this tends to occur during bends. And while nearly all guitarists attempt this technique, few pull it off authentically. But fret not. In this lesson, I'm going to show you the do's and don'ts of bending your guitar strings. Stay tuned because I'll be giving away a super sweet resource that'll go a long way in helping you level up your playing. In the meantime, grab your axe, take a seat, and let's get ready to rock. The first mistake that players make has to do with vibrato that is rapid and shaky. This results in something that generally sounds nervous and not well harnessed. And I've even seen really talented and technically proficient guitarists make this mistake. The only one who can really tastefully get away with it is BB King. Somehow it just works for him. But otherwise, the only way you really anthropomorphize the guitar is by having it mimic anxiety. And of course, you might be doing that intentionally as a desired effect, but I think it's more tasteful to have the notes sing with grace. There's a time and place for that shaky, springy type of vibrato, but generally it tends to sound like the vibrato is controlling you as opposed to you controlling it. So a lot of times when we bend notes, we are curling the fingers of our fretting hand to pull this off, but we don't want to rely so much on curling our fingers to achieve a bend, because that's largely what's responsible for that springy sound. But it's also that paired with the rapid movement, so this is kind of what it looks like more so from this angle. So instead of doing that, you want to sort of massage the note by slowly rocking it back and forth. And you do this by pivoting more with your hand and wrist when you anchor your finger on the fretted note. I think subtlety is the key with this, especially if you're more of a rock player. Which do you think sounds more graceful? This? Or vibrato is one of those skills a lot of people struggle with because they have a hard time disciplining themselves to get better at it. But before we continue, I want to give you a super sweet tool that'll help you revamp your practice routine and level up your playing. It's my Guitar Gains cheat sheet, and it's a completely free resource that gives you my best scientifically based tips on how to make consistent progress on the guitar and eliminate poor practice habits like practicing in waves. It also includes a completely customizable goal setting template to help you figure out your next guitar goal and absolutely crush it. Just click the link in the description or go to zachsharguitar.com and download this awesome free resource. So another mistake I see a lot of players make when they bend is that they bend unintentionally. And what I mean by that is if they're trying to bend up to a certain note, they don't really have a clear direction or a target note in mind. And really that can sound kind of amateur. And it seems that when people do this, they don't really realize that they, well, I guess should be bending up to a specific note instead of just going all willy-nilly with it. The goal is to aim for even intervals such as half step and whole step bends. And this means that you want to bend up to a specific note that's higher than where your fretting finger is. And when you intentionally bend up to a target note, you're more likely to stay in a key and sound like a pro. So, for example, if you're on this G note here, and your target note is this A note, that's one step away. So, what you can do is to practice by playing the note you want to bend up to before bending up to it. So, you want to play this A note here. I'm on fret 17 to the high E string. And then I can practice keeping that pitch in mind as I bend up to it from the G. So one of the more rock and roll bending techniques is a unison bend, and this is where you play two different notes across two different strings. When you do this, you bend the pitch of one note up to the same pitch as the other note on the higher string. And the mistake that people might make with this is that they bend both notes. And this is a big no-no, because if you're bending both notes, it's going to be harder for you to hit the target pitch and create that unison, which is where two notes are playing the same exact note. And to remedy this, you want to hold the target note. In this case, I've got E on the high E string of fret 12. That's going to be my target note, and I'm going to hold that while I focus on bending with my, in this case, it's my ring finger of my fretting hand. It could be my middle finger, but I'm going to bend and try to isolate the motion with my ring finger there, so that way I could go from D to E. And keep in mind the tip in the previous mistake about bending up to the correct pitch. With unison bends, it's almost easier to bend up to the correct note because you'll hear the dissonance resolve into two notes that sound exactly the same when you do it. And notice how I'm using a guitar with a fixed bridge. Unison bends are really difficult to achieve if you have like a tremolo bridge, like a Floyd Rose, like on my other guitar. You know, if I'm in a pinch and I have that guitar and I want to use a unison bend, I'll try to use the heel of my palm and really like keep the bridge, like I almost want to press down on it as I'm doing the unison bend, so that way it doesn't fold forward when you bend the strings. Don't make the mistakes that most guitarists, even the talented ones, are guilty of when bending notes. Shaky vibrato sounds too springy, so make sure you harness the notes by controlling them instead of having them control you. And when bending up to notes, make sure you're bending up to the intended pitch of a target note. If you don't, you sacrifice sounding professional for sounding more amateur. And when you go for a unison bend, make sure you isolate each note correctly so that they sound the same. Otherwise, it'll sound like you need to practice more. And the truth is, you might actually need to practice more and practice better. So don't forget to download my free guitar gains cheat sheet if you have not done so already. It gives you my best scientifically based tips on how to make consistent progress, conquer any guitar goal, and eliminate poor practice habits like practicing in waves. So just click the link in the description or go to zachsharguitar.com and download this awesome free resource. Then see where your skills stack up in just one short month from now. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Zach with Zach Shar Guitar. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.